Defense mechanism. Do you have a defense mechanism? Do you know that most of the time it hurts yourself and creates suffering in your life? What to do about it? Let's take a look. Routines is what we call conditioned behavior. Your body has remembered these movement patterns to the point where it can now do them without your conscious attention. Similarly, your mind memorizes your mental movements, which become conditioning patterns as well. And this is a very good and useful thing, but its use stops when we get into a defense mechanism, and unfortunately, most of us are unaware of this. In fact, some of you watching right now are probably thinking that they don't have defense mechanisms. Let's put it this way. Do you ever feel like you agree with what everyone says? That is a defense mechanism. Do you have trouble expressing yourself to others? That is also a defense mechanism. They are meant to run in the background and go undetected by us, so we seldom see them. Once we are aware of them, they can't control us anymore. So long ago, when we were still in the second density of consciousness, before we evolved into self-awareness, these defense mechanisms would have been very useful to us. But now that we are in the third density, which is self-awareness, these defense mechanisms are not useful because they only create suffering. As a result, we are collectively developing out of them. However, in order to do so, we must first understand what they are, why they exist, and how we might become conscious of them. That is exactly what we will tackle in this video, so keep on watching. Let me walk you through a scenario to help you understand how the defense mechanism works. If your leg was burned, you will have some painful skin and muscles that will need to recover. As a result, you must take a break from walking and moving and handle them with caution. They will never recover correctly if this is not done. Similarly, when you go through a traumatic event, it is similar to an accident. Parts of your mind get shattered and fragmented and require healing. But we seldom provide that healing to those fragments. Instead, we suppress them deep inside our subconscious minds, hoping that they would just disappear. But they never do. They will always be in our subconscious mind's prisons, waiting to be cured. As a result, your mind perceives this massive quantity of suppressed energy and devises a defense mechanism to deal with it. So it's not that you're damaged and can't love someone anymore. It's that you've been emotionally harmed and have developed a defense mechanism as a result. The true self cannot be broken. Healing is always available, but only when you're ready for it. The human brain is a very complicated entity. It has developed intricate psychological mechanisms to cope with everything, and hence, conditioning is quite effective up to a limit. Otherwise, we would have to deliberately think about everything we do. Consider how life would be if you had to remember how to do everything for your body. For example, I hold my bag full of books. I got the book written by author X. I open the book to page 12. I read the first sentence of page 12. I close the book. I return the book to my bag. That sounds robotic, isn't it? So although it's wonderful that the body has been conditioned to manage these situations for us, it's equally vital to recognize that it has also learned how to handle social situations for us. So whatever bad emotions you've ever had to individuals, terrible experiences, embarrassments, or arguments, the mind has remembered that reaction. And because these reactions are often quite emotionally intense, the mind remembers them as being really important. Thus, the mind creates a psychological system to help us avoid that outcome from happening again. That is a defense mechanism. As a result, you find it difficult to open out to others. You find yourself lying a lot to cover up your insecurities and other such things. As a result, these conditioned behaviors to avoid negative outcomes are just automatic mechanical responses to stimuli. In our less advanced caveman days, if we did anything that irritated the tribe with us, it would be highly important to remember that error and never repeat it. As a result, defensive mechanisms are psychological weapons that evolution has developed over time to assist us in surviving at whatever cost. But because of that, they come with a very heavy price tag. All defense mechanisms are negative reactions. There are no positive defense mechanisms, such as, I'm just feeling so happy right now that I'm going to close my heart off to this person. Or, I'm so at peace that I'm just going to cuss this stupid person out. Defense mechanisms are always insane in some manner. They advise us to oppose life and turn our fellow humans against us. They don't perceive the entire picture because they are only designed to cope with one aspect, which is how to avoid being hurt. Because they are solely built for one goal, they are oblivious to the rest of reality. As a result, they cause us to feel illogical, nervous, and unreasonable. Yet, we blame ourselves and others for all the horrible things we do, as if we have the capacity to avoid doing them. That is how the appearance of guilt is generated. All conditioning patterns have a reflex mechanism that states, if you don't give me energy, I'll still come back because I need to make sure you live. And without me, you'll undoubtedly die. But they can't keep coming back eternally. They want you to fall for their ploy and give them energy. So when a pop-up doll appears and you react to it, you are giving it energy since your attention is the ego's currency. So you're paying these thoughts to rent out space in your mind. Consider this. What type of homeowner pays their renters to live in their home? You not only let them live up there rent-free, but you also pay their rent for them. Thus, the ego is your own intelligence turned against you. Each time it comes, it says, "Give me your money." And you either deposit a nickel or a dollar in its hand. However, by giving it part of your attention, you are purchasing the concept the ego is selling you and granting it the power to affect you. Essentially, you're selling your free will. At that moment, the power it wields over you is utterly beyond your control. Defense mechanisms are autonomous. Whether you like it or not, they take the energy you give them to set up shop in your head. As a result, you no longer have a choice in how to respond to the circumstance. The decision has already been made for you. This makes all of your negative reactions conditioned. Because all negative emotions are a sort of fight or flight, they become automatic, implying that they are not originating from the true self. If you are heartbroken over animal cruelty, for example, that is not a negative reaction. That is a positive reaction that is you having compassion and wanting to help alleviate suffering. But if you say, I just want to slaughter cruel men, well, that is a negative reaction. The true self solely wishes to alleviate pain and never to cause it. Our biological survival program is to fight or flight. That is why I like to refer to the ego as the body mind, because it is the mind that comes with this physical body. That is, you are not the doer of its actions. Why would somebody want to suffer consciously? If it were truly up to our absolute free will, wouldn't we always choose to feel that peace? How much better it would be to hear that someone gossiped about you and just think, that's alright, I'm just so at peace that it doesn't affect me. We'd all like it, wouldn't we? That is because our genuine nature is one of peace. That is also why not feeling at ease is unpleasant. So everyone is trying not to suffer, but they can't figure out how to stop. And that's because they're not the ones doing it. In an ancient teaching of Eastern spirituality, it says that there is no personal doer of actions. All bodily actions are an impersonal conditioned reaction to stimulus. For example, If you're thirsty and want to make juice, you're simply responsible for the intention to create juice. The body then rises from its conditioning, walks over to the fridge, pulls out the ingredients, and begins to produce the juice. What evidence do we have that this is correct? Because if your body had not learned how to make juice, you would be unable to make one even if it was your intention. So it is our intention that triggers the body's conditioning. This is why it is critical that we heal our traumas, because living with unresolved traumas indicates that we have a deep subconscious intention to avoid suffering. The goal to avoid pain is what activates the fight or flight response to anything the mind perceives as a potential threat. This explains why we all have the same reaction to the same stimuli. So when someone yells at us, we all react the same way. We all have the same response when we discover our automobile has a damaged window. The intensity of the reaction is exactly proportional to the individual's degree of consciousness. In any case, your particular reaction is not unique to you. It is part of a collective evolutionary program to which the whole human species is subjected to. It's the conditioning of the body-mind. Remember that you are not the body or the mind. You are pure consciousness, so our true free will is simply where we direct our awareness. Where you direct your awareness dictates what conditioning gets triggered. Once you direct your attention on anything, the rest is out of your control and up to the program. Yet, we blame ourselves for how we behaved as though we did it. But all you did was pay attention to something, which set off a chain reaction of conditioned reactions. So the degree of your unconsciousness corresponds to the degree to which your mind takes control. And you can always tell when the mind has taken control because it is accompanied by suffering. As a result, the paradox of defensive mechanisms exists. They really provide you with what they are attempting to defend against. Defense mechanisms provide what they protect, because without them, you would be in the present moment and not replaying previous traumas. There would be no trauma to heal from, since no one would have been harmed by it. Your defense mechanisms are your traumas. There is no independent sufferer apart from the thoughts. The thought is the suffering. The thought is the sufferer. They are one great happening. So, once a defense mechanism is activated, you repeat that terrible memory in a very subtle or visceral way, because the mind is saying, hey, remember that experience? Yes, let's make sure it doesn't happen again. As a result, if this defensive system did not bring this up, you would never be triggered to revisit a past memory. With a simple thought experiment, we can illustrate how this is true. Assume you were physically abused as a kid, but you were knocked unconscious prior to the act, so you have no memory of it. Did you suffer? No, because you don't suffer from what actually happens to you. You suffer from your perspectives about it. Yes, you will still feel the physical pain of the experience, but as soon as the experience is over, the pain does not have to continue. Your mind produces traumas by transforming previous experiences into defense mechanisms, causing you to relive them over and over again. However, you do not have to suffer as a result of your experiences. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. Pain is merely physical, but suffering is psychological. There's a great difference. So how does one go about healing a defensive mechanism? There are several effective kinds of healing therapy accessible today, including Reiki, rapid eye movement, sound healing, and EFT. However, awareness is the most effective therapy for me. You must approach your defenses with serious reflection and self-inquiry in order to recognize the nature of their unreality. You must challenge what your mind has taught you, since a defensive mechanism can only remain as long as you accept the perspective it provides. as long as you purchase what it is offering. Victimization is the only viewpoint the mind can ever sell you. A negative emotion indicates an incorrect viewpoint on something, and a positive emotion indicates a correct viewpoint. Emotions are always an indication of how aligned your thinking is with how the universe sees you. As a result, if you believe you were victimized in any way, you are made to feel negative because the source is telling you that it isn't true and represents an incorrect viewpoint. Victimization is a belief that does not compute from a universal perspective because the universe is self-organizing and self-correcting. As a result, we are made to feel bad about that belief. The universe sees everyone as simply acting out their conditioning. It's all an impersonal programmed reaction. This means that the actions of others have no bearing on you. It's always a reflection of their consciousness, never of your worth. However, healing from a trauma is impossible if you truly believe you were victimized. Because, once again, the belief is the trauma. There is no trauma when victimization is no longer believed. People can, indeed, attack your body. But remember that you are not your body. Nobody can ever challenge who you truly are. As a result, you must begin to recognize that victimization is always a lie. Except as an idea in your mind, take note that you have never been a victim. Many of us were traumatized as children, and children obviously do not have the capacity to see this. However, as we grow older, we can see that no one can make us their victim unless we first believe that we are weak and vulnerable. But we are not the body that performs actions, nor are we the mind. Instead, we are the awareness that drives them. We are that eternal conscious principle, and our essence is invulnerable to harm. If we can see that, we can no longer take anyone's actions personally, because we can clearly see that they are deeply blind and unconscious. They are just victims of their biological programming, who believe all of the horrible thoughts that run through their heads. They lack self-awareness, which means they lack the free will to behave otherwise. Now, during the time of your trauma, it is quite sad that you were still blind to the truth. Hence, you believe that you were traumatized. However, there is now a higher way of seeing that demonstrates that what you truly are has never been abandoned, abused, or victimized. These concepts are simply coping mechanisms of your evolutionary biology, not your own creation. As a result, it may take some time and contemplation to see this truth, but the more you investigate your defense mechanisms, the more you will begin to see their unreality, which is always based on the fundamental lie of victimization. How can you love yourself if you still believe that you are a victim? That is why I highly suggest that you find love within yourself. Remember that self-love is the most powerful healing force because it can bring invulnerability. As a result, self-love is the most powerful healing force in the universe because love brings invulnerability. So how can you truly show that you love yourself? First, you must recognize your worth, and that is eternal and can never be reduced. And second, you must realize that what you are doesn't require defending. Doing so, you'll be able to flap your wings as a free person. Thanks for watching, liking, and subscribing, and being mindful to release defense mechanisms from your life so you can be a more open and happy person.